If you know me or you followed my channel, you know that I like to be right a lot of the time, and even though I am wrong, I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong, and I think that's one of the main differences between myself and other like YouTube personalities and people in general. You know, I used to be so closed off as an Xbox quote-unquote fanboy. You know, when people had a difference of opinion with me on Twitter or social media, I would simply block them rather than have a discussion. And now, of course, things have changed and I don't block people and I'm open to discussion and things like that. Of course, there's other personalities, usually Xbox fans, that are quite the opposite. You know, if you have any kind of thing to say that maybe cast them in a negative light or try to get them to apologize or recant something that they've said, they don't do it. Well, now, IGN has totally destroyed a large number of these fanboys and gave them some pretty big news. This is exactly why PlayStation 5 is the right way to go. Hey, what's up everybody? Crapgamer here with Crapgamer Reviews, back with another video. Thank you so much for checking it out. I really do appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. I would appreciate that as well. It helps out the channel and it means a lot to me personally. So thank you guys so much for the love and support. It really does mean the world to me. So with that being said, like I said, you know, obviously anybody can change. Everybody can be wrong. I think the real staple of a person is, can they admit being wrong? And I think that's where a lot of us sort of see the problem with a lot of the people that do YouTube and things like that. See, a lot of, like, YouTube is basically, it's fun for me. It's a learning experience. I learn while I do this, the technology side and things like that. But the one thing that never changes for me is that I have fun with it. And if I don't have fun with it, I don't do it. Case in point, I didn't do, you know, I stopped doing Xbox Nation podcast. How can I talk up Xbox when I'm not having fun on Xbox, right? Like, it was hard to do, so I stopped doing it, and because it wasn't fun. So the object of YouTube, the object of gaming, is pure fun. Now, the interesting thing here is there are developers and things like that who are in the know, and there are engineers, you know, all that kind of stuff. For some reason, we have this influx of just totally wannabe things, right? Like, they want to be developers, they want to be engineers, and they absolutely have no clue what they're talking about. And this is some great vindication for me. Listen, I appreciate all the real ones out there that said, hey, you know what? Everybody was calling you a fearmonger, CG, and we were wrong. You were right. You said this would happen, and this would happen, and this would happen. And that's exactly what's happened, okay? You know, I've called this for a long time, and I've said that, you know, you got to drop the old gen stuff as soon as possible. Sony's way of thinking is much better and more inclusive to doing a next generation game that's going to take full advantage of it. So, as you guys know, Ryan McCaffrey from IGN has been outspoken and has said multiple times before that, you know, the current consoles won't hold back the next gen consoles. Obviously, the Xbox Series X and PS5 titles are going to be held back. And this is according to Ryan McCaffrey, who has multiple sources. He's probably spoken to devs. We've also seen from, you know, Digital Foundry, where they've mentioned multiple times that, yes, indeed, it does hold things back. So he's an IGN editor, and he took to Twitter overnight to really kind of express his thoughts on what happened. And he says, you know, very obviously, as various sources have already claimed, the aged hardware inside the PS4 and Xbox One is preventing developers from showing what's really possible in the next-gen hardware inside Microsoft's Xbox Series X and the PS5. This is what he had to say. And first of all, I want to say, respect for coming clean and saying, you know, the truth. You know, he says, and I quote, "I was wrong to drink the current gen won't hold next gen back Kool-Aid. I've talked to enough people now. It makes sense for some games, but not AAA system seller kind of big budget productions." He added, "Cut bait on the old hardware. I want to see what the new stuff can do." And then you had the insider, you know, Shinobi, who also chimed in on the matter, saying that games will always be developed with the lowest common denominator. And he's actually a developer, not just an insider. I think he's working on the studio that he works for is working on a PlayStation exclusive. He said, games will always be developed with the lowest common denominator. I hate to even approach it negatively because it's not, honestly. Cross-gen games are fine, but if you want the same experience across the board, including lower SKU, you have to design around that feature set. So it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. And to be honest with you, you know, I just find this to be a topic that I could talk about for a long time because I want to get my money's worth with my consoles of next generation. And what I saw with the Xbox Series X and even though that the Halo wasn't running on an Xbox Series X, it was running on a PC that was supposedly more powerful or whatever, and it didn't look good. It didn't look good at all. And to even kind of further the point, and Ori and the Blind Forest developer actually said, this is what he said, because this article actually covers a lot on it, actually made the news. He said, I would be shocked if most third-party developers would not just develop their games for the lowest common denominator. And he said this back in June. He said, I mean, there's literally zero chance that levels will get changed just because the PS5 can load them faster, simply because it's way too expensive and work-intensive to do that, meaning that old hardware would indeed hold it back, which is a good thing, especially, you know, with the first party. Hopefully we can get some third-party to do some stuff too. And also with Sony stating that some experiences are only possible on its PlayStation 5 hardware, McCaffrey is most likely referring to Microsoft's statement that cross-gen releases won't hold back next-gen experiences. Again, the Kool-Aid that he's speaking of is none other than supplied by Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox. He's the one that said it's a meme by console warriors and things like that, that old hardware holds back new hardware, and, you know, he's talking about PC as a way to do that. And again, if you look at the hardware that's inside the Xbox One from 2013, the hardware was from 2010 itself, and you don't see PC gamers gaming on today's or next generation, especially on hardware from 2010. So even though PCs are scalable, there is a cutoff point, and I think Phil Spencer was just trying to look like the good guy, as he always does, and now it's coming out that he was pretty wrong. And also, as covered earlier in the month, multiple developers have also reportedly said that scaling back cross-gen PS5 and Xbox Series X games for current-gen hardware is rather difficult. And a matter of fact, it is said that developers don't want to develop for their titles for the H hardware any longer to begin with. And this is what Digital Foundry's John Linneman said. He says, nobody wants to develop for an underpowered Jaguar CPU anymore. I've spoken with enough developers to know how painful the process is at this point. Leave Xbox One and PS4 behind. So you even have, you know, well-known YouTubers and things like that sort of come out and say, hey, you know, we don't want to develop for this because it's very difficult to do. And, you know, and I find that refreshing to be honest about it. Listen, if Microsoft were honest about their decisions regarding Xbox Series X, the whole, you know, bring your stuff with you, and we're going to have everything up and down is going to play up and down the family of consoles for the first couple of years. If they would have been honest with people, they would have just said, you know, we don't really have anything big planned for the first couple of years. And so we want everything to be on both because it's going to make the most sense. Because if you look at it, what do they really have planned that's coming before 2023 outside of Halo Infinite? It's literally nothing. I mean, there's stuff coming like these AA multiplats and timed console exclusives, but they don't have anything big planned. There's nothing by their first party plan that's going to really require an Xbox Series X for the first couple of years. And now there's rumors that Halo Infinite has been delayed until 2022, and that's a possibility. So if you think about it, Gears of War 5 released September 6, 2019. Halo Infinite would probably release holiday 2022. And if the talk is real that they want to drop the Xbox One version, they might have to go back and do a lot more work. So 2022 would be a possibility, and there's no way they're going to release a Halo game early. It would take probably multiple years to get that up to snuff. So you're looking at over 2 years in which there's no big AAA release from Microsoft. There's nothing on the radar anytime soon from Microsoft. So a lot of the YouTubers and people that said, oh, well, no, this can't scale, that can't, or everything can scale, and now it's coming out that, you know, there's a lot of backtracking going on. And here's the thing. Like, you could say a game like Red Dead Redemption 2 had great graphics on the Xbox One X, and, you know, the Xbox One version didn't look great, but this is next generation, right? So obviously, still having to do something that runs on a Jaguar, even graphics-wise, it's going to still have to run there. So I 100% fully believe that not only can game design suffer when you're doing it this way, but graphic design as well. Just the number of detail, the number of things that you could do, because it's got to be the same basic game, and so it's got to run on both, and especially running on that old Jaguar core and things like that. So I think it hampers everything, not just you know, the game itself. An easy way to look at this, to what I'm talking about, is this. Look at a cross-gen game like Assassin's Creed Black Flag, right? Sure, it looked better on PS4 than it did on PS3 and Xbox 360, but then you want to look at the first true next-gen game was Assassin's Creed Unity, which looks incredible. I know it had a lot of bugs and stuff, but just the graphical upgrade that had over the previous games, only on that current gen, you know, only on the next-gen stuff, it is night and day. It's night and day. It really proves how difficult it is and how things are held back. There's a lot of other things to be said. And when you look at it, it was very interesting to see that, you know, Microsoft in general has been a little bit of a tough place to live for a lot of free thinkers and things like that. And that sort of came out as well. There was a little bit of interaction with Ryan McCaffrey and Mikey Barra about, you know, Cliffy B possibly working for Microsoft. And Mikey Barra commented that, you know, Cliffy B was a free thinker and he does what he wants. And that wouldn't last a minute there. And Ryan McCaffrey chimed in with kind of a joke with, you know, things you wouldn't say when you worked at Microsoft for $400. So, you know, again, is Microsoft this great company? I don't know. Like I said, it seems like, you know, a wolf in snakeskin or sheepskin, if it would be. You know what I mean? Like, to me, there's a lot of things going on there behind the scene that doesn't make sense. And, again, take it for what it's worth, but I think that Phil Spencer was wrong here. It's not just console warrior stuff. It's just facts that are backed up by actual developers, not YouTubers, developers. And now we're seeing it more and more often. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please sound off, rate, comment, subscribe. Take a second to consider subscribing. I would appreciate it. Hopefully you guys all have a fantastic day. Stay safe, happy, healthy. Rack 'em up. Game on. Crapgamer out.
Unscripted.